Ladies and gentlemen, to episode 134 of Bloody Thumbs Podcast. Yes, I've confirmed we're recording. Just wanted to make sure of myself here. And as always, I'm joined by my co-host extraordinaire, CH Skorog.
What up, what up?
And I myself, at Splitter47, joining you guys once more for the week of May 8th, 2013. Another thrilling podcast. We will see where this goes. This is another one of those we're going to wing it type of things. On my end, mainly, I don't know. CHK's more prepared than I did, to be honest.
It's usually last minute segments of me looking through every gaming news website for relevant information. So saying that, I will never be going on to spill.com to look up for anything that's relevant or game related in an informative way.
My goodness, is this something we should get into? I do not know of this tale.
What are you referring to? Because it was just out of general sort of apathy for the site that they've really just atrophied it into the point where it's like, it's not like a, you know, the metaphor of like the wolf or the dog that's whimpering and, you know, still clinging onto life, but you want to put it's out of its misery. That's kind of how I feel about Spill, where I love the people behind it. I love the idea of a much more down-to-earth vibe, but they have not been that for many, many months, if not many years.
I thought you actually had some sort of tale there, the way you were bringing it up there. But no, like you said, if it's just in general, I most likely will probably have the same sentiments as you do. I know that we're also a part of the site as well, so we're just a little.
They don't give a fuck.
No, I'm just. No, just bringing that up.
Have you ever heard them talking about us?
No, I'm just saying.
Yeah, it's yeah.
No, I'm just saying contradictory. How we criticize it, but we're still on here. That's what I was trying to bring up there. But
hey, any traffic is traffic, you know what I'm saying?
Controversy creates cash. A great man known as Eric Bischoff once said. Any wrestling fans out there will get that reference. And I probably have the same sentiments as you do. Not as probably as passionate as you do, but I'm just indifferent, to be honest with you. I do not really look at it as much as I mostly do. I just go on here and post the podcast mainly because this is where most of our listeners, kind of originated from. So we still want to kind of keep the tradition up on staying on this particular site just for the podcasting purpose. If there was, if I had the web development skills, I mean, I'd go all out in making it some sort of website for us, where we can, have every single episode available at the teeth of the fans, at discretion. But that's just kind of the situation we're in right now. But no,
for me, it's not really passion, but angry apathy that's driving me, because I don't care right now, but I did care, and that makes me angry that I really had faith in whatever the website was, trying to aim for, and then now it's just, whatever, you guys are just doing I don't want to say the bare minimum. I don't want to say anything that discouraging, because they do put a lot of work and effort into that site, but I don't know, I feel like Hollywood.com is really putting them in a stranglehold where they have no idea how to run the website. And just like letting Corey and the gang do what they do, I would love to see that. But it's unfortunately not really happening for them right now. So yeah.
Yeah, I hear you. It's a shame because I used to be a big fan of their site mainly years ago. It's when we first started. It was the early years, as I like to call them. Always reminiscing on that every now and then. But well, life goes on and things change.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. It's
show goes on. Lupe Fiasco once said.
Yeah. As Biggie Smalls was quoted as saying that one time that I misquoted him. And life goes on.
Life goes on.
And let's move on to some brighter topics right now. So let's take a look at. Well, actually, to be honest, for those of you who are interested in the long-awaited sequel to the 2002 cult classic, or follow-up to Silicon Knights, Eternal Darkness Saints Requiem, Precursor Games, which are a new studio formed last year from the people who are at Silicon Knights, hopes to raise about $1.5 million to fund the follow-up to the game, and it will be called A Shadow of Eternals. And so, it looks A Shadow of the Eternals.
What a title!
It's good people right there. They are. I was always interested in playing Eternal Darkness. I heard it's one of the best really great horror games that were traditional horror, not really like Dead Space action horror, where I love Dead Space, but it's more action elements than not. And with Resident Evil 0 remake for the GameCube, as well as Eternal Darkness, that was the last bastion of horror games before the 360 and the PS3 sort of came around and changed the status quo.
Yeah, we haven't had kind of the traditional horror games in a long time, where it's just you with just so much as you can scrounge, if there's a word, throughout the whole entirety of the game, where you always feel like you're never gonna advance any further. Like there's always something that's gonna. You never know what it's the unexpectedness of feeling I got there. I did get that a little bit with Dead Space 2, which I will say that I have finally beaten after I don't know how many weeks of playing it on and off, because I just got kind of frustrated with it every now and then, because I ended up getting killed, and it's like the death scenes are pretty good, but it's like after a while I was like, man, let me just kill me already. I don't want to sit here while this monster starts barraging my face in, and then seeing all the blood gush out.
Nom on your face, man. I mean, you gotta give the developers some credit on the fact that they have all them animations working on full force.
Yeah, the animation's good, especially the one the first time I tried it, the part where you have to aim the needle on your eye, and I was like, oh crap, I messed that up big time the first time. That was a good death animation just to see. I mean, if I missed it out on it, I think I would have just done it on purpose just to see what the death animation was like. But yeah, each one is pretty gruesome and pretty awesome to watch. So yeah, I finally finished that. I didn't think I would finish it because I reached a point where I might have miscalculated my spending on things there. Like later on the level, the part where I think it was on chapter 12 or 13, but you're getting chased down by this regenerating monster. It reminded me a lot like Nemesis, so you always have to run away and make sure.
Yeah.
The first time I didn't know it was regenerating, so I basically shot the hell out of it, and I spend most of all my ammo on them, and then it's just like I got to the point where I had to run by every monster in order just to advance, because I had no ammo and no cash to spend, because before that happened I spent cash on a new armor, and wasn't the best decision. If I had known that would have happened, but that was the thing about that, because it was just unexpectedness, and I always felt like I never was going to make it out of there because I never had enough ammo in that game.
Well, hey, I mean, look at it this way.
It was good.
If you're gonna, what's the worth of a long life if there's no style in it? So just
yes, exactly.
Pimp out that great suit that you got and just enjoy it for as long as you can before getting curb stomped by Mr. Nashy Mouth.
In the end, I have no regrets. It was good to finish the game in style, looking good in the new armor, and and to finally have finished that. It was interesting way how that ended there. Some people have mixed feelings from what I've heard about the, after that. I think it was like they say chapter 8 or something. It goes a bit bonkers there, but it was. I like the gameplay and just the atmosphere, which really worked for that game. Was the atmosphere that a lot of these type of survival horror games need to have more of, which it just reminded me a lot of how I enjoyed Resident Evil 3 because it had a good atmosphere, and it was a lot of fun. We'll see. I might go back and play Dead Space 1 just for the sake of it, and see what that's doing. I'm not sure about Dead Space 3 at the moment. Maybe when it's down in price. I haven't played Tomb Raider yet. I know I mentioned that I got it on eBay, but there were some complications at eBay. My first real issue with the eBay right there. So I had to just get a refund on that and might just spend it on something else and see what happens after that. I played some Red Dead.
Yeah,
Red Dead Redemption. What was that?
Ooh, that's always a good game to play. That's always a good game to play.
Oh, right, yeah. I was just going to mention
Hello?
that. Yes. Can you hear me? Holla.
Hello.
It's like a delay. It might be a delay.
Holla. Yeah. I'm sorry. I don't know. Maybe just like I have other tabs up, and I'm afraid that maybe if I switch to other tabs, it slows down our reaction time for the internet connection. So I will try to minimize that as much as possible.
All right, it's no problem there. No, just mentioning I've been playing some Red Dead. The first time I played it, I got it. I rented it from Blockbuster at the time when that was still around in my neck of the woods, and I bought it
Back when the dinosaurs ruled the earth.
Back when the dinosaurs ruled the earth. That is the correct statement there.
Pretty sure I saw it in the background of Jurassic Park. It's like, look at this entire island. Now all these things are extinct and archaic. Look, it's Betamax and the Blockbuster. Na 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 na.
I think that's the new storyline for the next Jurassic Park.
I certainly hope it would be that instead of the alien resurrection plot line of like, okay, we'll breed dinosaur DNA with human DNA and see what happens.
That'll make an interesting film. Why not?
Hell yeah. And I would like to come back to this topic, but speaking of Dead Space,
sure,
and Dead Space Trace, EA has been quoted as saying that both it and Crysis 3 came in below our quote unquote our forecast. So it's looking to be fairly bad for. I mean, it's joined the ranks of Tomb Raider, Hitman Absolution, and Resident Evil 6 as these really well reviewed, really well selling games that don't make the billions these publishers invest because they think that they deserve it, and they don't have a really smart budget, and especially with EA, it really shows the kind of the hubris and I also am just not really glad right now of the fact that we have no idea how much this game sold, because video game publishers don't need to actually tell consumers how much they've sold in terms of their products. And which makes me fairly worried, just because how are you going to invest in a company that you have no idea how many copies of their last game that you sold?
Right. Yeah, I mean, just one of those things where they just need to focus to the brass tacks there and just always focus on just making the best game you can and not just overspend it in unnecessary fields and just have not have a lot of high expectations, as we mentioned before, because you can never predict exactly how a game will settle on people. It's always just a give and take there. If you just have confidence in what you put out, then just you get what you put into it, I guess.
Yeah, it just makes me really frustrated that these AAA games in any other timeline before now would be seen as huge successes, but are not because of the fact that the publishers overblew their marketing and just pumped way too much money into the thing, and now it's too big to fail, which means that they have to incorporate big FU systems such as microtransactions and DRM, to make back that money. And they all want the Call of Duty money, and so it's the screw over the consumer right now, and they'll just have to stay with us because we're the publishers and they always need us. And I have a feeling that if we're going to continue this line of thought, we're going to go into a big tailspin that hasn't been seen since the death of the arcades.
I mean, they also have to take into the fact that, I mean, not every gamer necessarily buys every game that gets released. I mean, they pick and choose what they'll get, and just also the fact that the game's are full price, and most of the time they'll end up buying it or just attaining it in other means by like GameFly or just borrowing from a friend. And I mean, there's just so many variety of factors that people can get a hold of those particular games without necessarily having to purchase them day one. So it's also, I guess it's also some of that too. I mean, some people are pretty conservative when it comes to what they're gonna spend money on in terms of games, because they're pretty relatively. I mean, it's over time is a pretty expensive hobby to get into. Much like anything else.
Yes, it is. Yeah, more so than movies, more so than music, more so than, I would almost say, drugs. It is like video games are a very expensive hobby to keep buying new release after new release, and because of this, people are going to be more conservative with their money. And the strange thing is that they want their product to look homogenous. They want it to look like everything else. Like Dead Space has lost a lot of its own sort of allure as a contemplative, quiet sort of survival horror action game, and you have co-op in there with a lot more focus on actions, and you're shooting enemies who are humans now who are shooting back at you, and it does not fit, and people are just going to look at that and say like, okay, that just looks like everything else. And the same problem with Resident Evil 6, where it's like, Resident Evil 4 was great because it had that great dynamic between the gameplay, the presentation, and the fact that at the time, it did not play like anything else. And then now it's just like, Resident Evil 6, it's basically Gears of War with butt sliding.
Yeah, it's doing things that other games have done previously and maybe better. But it could be debated there. And it also just goes into the fact there that it's. I know that they're always trying to make it accessible to every person, but it's one of those things where if you're going to do that, you're going to end up probably sacrificing what the soul ideas were of that game, to its previous to its predecessor, and in that process, you're just going to alienate some fans. I mean, you can't appease everybody. Either you're going to go try to make a game as diverse as you can. You can do that, but if it has a history of the games being pretty diverse in terms of ideas, but if it's something that where it's just trying too hard to get every single person in a certain market to get it, but it's just not going to really fly well and just going to lose its focus from its previous game, just much like Dead Space 3 from what I've heard. And it's just, you either got to go all the way and just take what you can get, and the people that like that particular genre are going to get it, but you just can't necessarily have both most of the time.
Yeah, it's that weird focus point where you need to have either, well, I mean, you can either be small enough to maintain your identity and be popular, but if you want to grow, you need to have accessibility to it, which is just, it's a very tricky way to maneuver around all the problems that you might have. And just, and I don't blame them for trying to go bigger. I just think that they lose so much of their soul in the process of it. Like Dead Space 2 sold great, and you only needed to add a few new features and like a new storyline to get people interested. Nobody played the multiplayer. That was a fact. And then they just said, like, okay, we'll just include another, damn online system to keep people invested in our game for the time that goes on. And it doesn't work in a lot of instances because they're not willing to, put a pin in their product and say, okay, how are you supposed to make this better? It's, okay, how are we supposed to make this more profitable? And unfortunately, it's not the people who are actually developing the video games, it's the people in suits who are just behind closed doors saying, okay, you know what, we need this game, we need this game, we need this game. Take all these, take these 3 games, take their aesthetics, take their gameplay, put it in this game. I don't care if it works. It will sell. And it's amazing that you have these big success stories like Limbo, Super Meat Boy, the Double Fine production stuff, which are smaller games to be sure, but they are ones with their own creative voice, and because of that, they attract people. Whereas when you lose your creative voice, it starts to get very dilapidated.
Right, yeah. I mean, those comparatively sometimes are even just a lot more of a fun experience than something you would get for full price. So you only end up paying probably, at the highest, depending on what it is, like an arcade game, probably $20, and then you get a lot out of that. And with no shenanigans involved, it's as a rewarding experience, if not better than a AAA game sometimes.
Yeah, and I mean, people don't seem to understand that Call of Duty is going to be Call of Duty, and then you have Battlefield. You have Battlefield and Medal of Honor, which are basically the exact same game, except without the audaciousness of the Modern Warfare series, or like the Black Ops series, where they go huge. It's a Michael Bay film where it's stupid, the plot makes no sense. I hate the characters, and it just how big can we make these explosions? But that's going to peter out. People are going to get tired of that. It's going to be old hat when I'm actually fascinated to see what happens with the next Call of Duty game. It's Ghosts, Codename Ghosts, or whatever the Ghosts thing is, where it's a new Call of Duty game, and I'm fascinated to see how the public reacts to it after games like Spec Ops: The Line and BioShock Infinite, which not only showcase what you can do with the medium with just shooty violence, but also kind of making fun of the very mechanics that Call of Duty glorifies. And I just wonder if they're just going to, if the developers are just going to ignore it entirely, or if they'll actually try to do something about it, where it's like, okay, we'll actually try to, say something along the same lines.
Yeah, they might have little splices here and there of that, but not go too far into it. It's gonna do the same bank as the past games have done, and just Call of Duty necessarily doesn't really have to go into the kind of Spec Ops: The Line area of kind of storytelling. I mean, those games are there for certain markets, and they do well just for what they do, just shooting the crap out of things, just seeing explosions. That's what it's like, a popcorn flick, and they don't necessarily have to go in all and tell a thought-provoking story. Those are just, like you were mentioning, those are just the Michael Bay films of gaming. So like you said, and when other publishers try to go that same route, people are just going to get bored and see it as the same as Call of Duty and just not get it, because they're trying to emulate the same thing with Call of Duty, but Call of Duty is its own thing, and it's just people have already kind of petered out by it. The ones that are actually gonna get them. It's like someone would say like Spec Ops. It's like I like first person shooters. I'm just gonna get Call of Duty next year, and then that's about it.
Yeah, and once again, it all comes back to how much people want to pay for, how much people want to actually pay for their games and their $60 investments. So they'll probably go with something that they know they'll probably enjoy. So yeah, it's a vicious cycle that doesn't seem to have a whole heck of a lot of division from it, but one can always hope. And but with EA, they certainly banked on the wrong horse with Dead Space and Crysis 3.
Yeah, well, hopefully they'll at least learn something from it, or unless they'll just be maybe not be out of business, but lose a lot of money.
Yeah, and speaking of interesting games that put in online features, maybe sometimes unnecessarily, I would like to bring up a game that's actually taking away all the components of online, where we have Wolfenstein: The New Order, which is the new Wolfenstein quote-unquote reboot, which is going to be a single-player game only with no multiplayer, which is strange. It's because the previous games have been known for multiplayer. In fact, some of the most fanatical fan base of online multiplayer shooters was with the Wolfenstein and its concurrent sequels.
Huh.
Yeah, and I just thought that was interesting, just because I think now they're noticing that people tend to respect developers a little bit more who don't just cram in multiplayer for games that don't need it, where it's just I don't know, you don't need a multiplayer system for I don't know, Silent Hill or the original Super Mario Brothers, but like with Super Mario Brothers, they found a way to make it good without sacrificing the core of the gameplay or changing it completely. Like, you're never going to have like two-player Tetris unless you're actually going head-to-head. Not just like cooperative Tetris would be the worst thing ever, because you'd be like, no, fit that block right there. No, we need the L piece. No, we need the square piece. I will kill you, you son of a bitch.
Yeah, it would just be like Splinter Cell Convictions co-op, where you just have to. You gotta have some communication just so you can know what you guys gonna do and know when to strike and be in coordinates with each other. I could see where you're coming from on that. It would just be a mess. Your pieces will be running into each other all the time. It's like, God damn it, bumping into mine.
I'm also very fascinated to. But even Splinter Cell, the Splinter Cell series has done multiplayer very well. It's integrated it. If not in a narrative base, then at least in a very interesting kind of a narrative of its own to try to justify it. Like the co-op stuff, the spies versus mercs, which you get to take advantage of like two different groups, which is fairly awesome. Just like, oh, okay, the spies play different than the mercs, and say you have to develop different strategies, and then. With Conviction, it's okay. You get to co-op it, and you have a really good time. And I'm really looking forward to see what Blacklist does.
I guess it just depends on the game, and it has to be structured in a way where it can work for multiplayer, and without it feeling without it being forced on there. Like you said, Silent Hill is a good example of something how you can't really make it work for co-op. It'll just take away all the mystique and just all the tension you get by being alone in Silent Hill. It's just not kind of structured in a way where you can put multiplayer together for it. It'll just feel tacked on, and it'll just take away from the original single player product.
But yeah, I don't know. There's when you introduce multiplayer, it either adds or subtracts to the overall feel of the game when you know somebody else, like an actual live person, is in the same game with you and may not respond as narratively and diegetically true to the world as you might and the enemy AI could. Well,
you could. You always got to take that risk every time you play any type of game online. They're always gonna. Anyone you can play as randomly will just do something out of the ordinary and troll you and just ruin your experience. Especially online, when you're like online Red Dead, you just want to walk around and look at the horses and pick up some flowers, and then you get drive-by'd, horse-by'd.
Some asshole from like 20 yards away just sniped you in the head just because you were just trying to pick up some flowers, man.
Exactly. They can't just enjoy the atmosphere and the terrain. Those sons of bitches.
And speaking of things not seemingly fitting in with other things, have you heard the news about John Carpenter?
Well, he wants to do a Dead Space 3, not Dead Space 3, Dead Space movie, I guess.
Yes, he does, and it's he. And for those of you who do not know, he's the man who directed and wrote The Thing and Escape from New York, and that's about it.
We got Assault on Precinct 13. We got that. Is that a list of his repertoire?
Oh, I have not seen that one. I've heard really mixed things about Assault on Precinct 13.
Worth a shot when you get the chance. I think it's on Netflix.
I did see Ghosts of Mars with Ice Cube.
Yes.
Which is one of those movies where it's like, okay, I need a Brillo pad and some industrial soap to get those memories out of my brain. What was the one with the one where Val Kilmer's on Mars?
Oh, man.
I'm fairly sure it was just titled Val Kilmer is on Mars, and people just like, I don't want to see this.
Yeah, I don't recall that one, but I know that Jason Statham was in Ghost of Mars.
Yes, he was, and he was surprisingly hair. Like, he had hair in his head. He looked like a little bit like Agent Coulson from the Marvel movies.
Mm-hmm. It's been a while since I've seen it, but I recall, once Jason Statham got big, and then I was just looking at his IMDb list one day. Oh yeah, he was in Ghost of Mars.
I mean, he and Bruce Willis can pull off the bald look, and Dwayne Johnson, to be fair, like nobody's business. But who's an actor who has not pulled off the bald look that well?
Joey Lawrence.
Joey Lawrence went bald?
Was it? I'm trying to remember if it's Joey Lawrence or some other Lawrence brother.
But I hope it wasn't Matthew Lawrence, just because I remember watching Superhuman Samurai Cyber Squad. It's like, dude, that surf bum hair, that made his character.
Let me see.
Yo, Joey Lawrence.
I don't know. Now he looks kind of odd without hair, because I was so used to him seeing with hair.
Ooh, yeah.
It's
Joey Lawrence bald. Yeah, that. Oh wow, he kind of looks like Timothy Olyphant, and it's like, wow, they just get him to play twin brothers. Maybe have another Disney show where it's like the Lawrence Brothers Part 2, and they realize that they have like a fourth brother that they didn't know about.
4 brothers, 4.5 brothers. brothers
living together in one crazy household.
Brothers
Oh man, I mean, some actors really take off when they just realize, like, oh, by the way, nobody cares what my hair looks like. But then you have the other opposite spectrum, which is like Nicolas Cage. What's like, what animal can I run over with my car and then glue onto my head today? And it sometimes works in both favors.
Yeah. Nick Cage is certainly an exception where I can't imagine him bald, but I can't picture him with saying that he's got a good head of hair, which lack thereof, I'm not sure. Who knows?
He's got a very good head of wig, because like that's all that is. Like, it cannot be anything but hair pieces and the grace of God holding his follicles together up there.
Like John Travolta.
Like John Travolta, who is like, he and Samuel L. Jackson had that competition for a while. Like, okay, who can have the weirdest hairstyle and still look acceptable to look at? Like, what was that like really weird hairstyle he had in Pulp Fiction, where it was like he was kind of balding, but it really wasn't. He looked like an eggplant. It just from the way that it was sprouting, his hair was sprouting. It's like, ugh, what is that? But then you have Samuel L. Jackson with the Jerry curl afro and just the crazy mustache. Like, you know what? I'm sorry, I'm just distracted by Samuel L. Jackson over here.
He had a kind of mix of a mullet and a bob cut. Maybe.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. Where it's like the trappings of a mullet, but it was just that slight edge of not mullet to like completely get it under the radar.
Yeah, he was treading on thin ice with that one. Mm-hmm. That I say. But to go back on the John Carpenter, want to do with Dead Space movies. I don't know why. All people, filmmakers always have they always say that they want to direct some sort of movie-based game, but I mean, in reality, most of them may not probably end up being any worth the time. But why not just like take inspiration a bit from that, or just I probably know Dead Space has taken inspiration from other mediums as well, but you can always just end up just doing something similar to it, and not necessarily have to be Dead Space, just to kind of, I guess, avoid any kind of any kind of licenses, I guess. Or any not having to spend money on just obtaining the license to make the film. I guess that'd be a way to go.
Yeah, you have. It's really strange because you have like Gore Verbinski producing Prince of Persia. You have Christoph Gans, who did Brotherhood of the Wolf, who went on to do the first Silent Hill movie. And even though you could tell the passion was in these people to make these video game movies, it just didn't transpire, and it's really, really sad that it just didn't work. And I will never say never. I would love to see a really good video game adaptation movie, just because if it's a good movie, then it's a good movie. I mean, I didn't think I would be a huge Iron Man fan just because I thought that's kind of a silly idea. But hey, when they made the movie, it was like, wow, spot on. And then I love to be proven wrong on these sort of things. And with definitely with video game movies, I think that there's a lot of creativity to mine that isn't Super Mario Brothers, because I don't ever want to see that thing again. Bob Hoskins and John Leguizamo. The only time I ever want to see these people, those two dressed up in their costumes from the film, is when they're actually being buried, and it's like that's their last rites. Where it's like, okay, we get to actually forgive them for that movie because they're finally gone.
I always give Bob Hoskins a pass because he was in Who Framed Roger Rabbit, and that's one of my favorite films. That he's in.
I'm sorry?
It's one of my favorite films that he's in.
Yes, and I mean, Who Framed Roger Rabbit is just brilliant. It's a love letter to all the animation of the early Warner Brothers period, and just also Disney, and paying homage to just everybody who really mattered, and but it also was surprisingly adult, which wow, that's fairly risky, which is really why I was kind of sad that Wreck-It Ralph was only kind of a good film and not really a the video game equivalent of Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
That'd be an interesting take there in terms of tone, but
yeah, I mean, they were dealing with dealing with arcades, and that could have been like a really introspective look at arcades were this sort of fun place that nostalgia takes over more than not, where it's like, okay, we have done better, but there'll always be a place in our hearts for arcades, and just for everything that just keeps going on with the with our industry, where we continually advance more and more as time goes on. We forget these sort of things, and kind of, should they be forgotten? And then it was like, no, it was just like it was a cute story of like this guy who wants appreciation, and then he gets it in a different way at the very end.
I always feel that when they take some type of source material, I always feel like they could have done a bit more with it in terms of story and tone. Like, I always felt that Iron Man 2 was lacking in a bit of a tone from the first one, which I liked a lot. And but my question to you is, since you were mentioning Wreck-It Ralph, did they reference Billy Mitchell from the famous King of Kong documentary?
Him versus Steve Wiebe? I don't recall. I don't think they did. I think it was just more of it was a lot of generalized stuff. It's a lot of cameo appearances by a lot of the arcade legends like Sonic. I mean, the guy who runs the Galaxy Arcade. I can't remember what his name is, but he's in the King of Kong documentary. He's basically the archetype for the character of the kind of the guy who runs the arcade in the film, and so like you could definitely see that.
I see.
Yeah, and speaking of Iron Man and Iron Man 2, have you seen Iron Man 3 yet?
I have not. I'm probably gonna check it out this weekend. I wanted to kind of avoid any type of just how these big films come out and it just gets a bit overcrowded there. So I was gonna give it a week. I was gonna give it a week ahead to see if it'll die down a bit. But no, I have not having the chance to take a gander at the Iron Man 3. I've heard some things. Nothing too specific, but just a couple of mixed things. So, have you seen it?
I have seen it, and I gotta say, I love the hell out of that film. I think I might like it even more than the first film, but that's just me. Goddamn. I thought the second one was at best mediocre, but it had a lot of problems in it, and it was only really brought up by some really good performances and a lot of the kick-ass action scenes, but just the story wasn't there.
Yeah.
It was way too much trying to be the tie-in to the Avengers film.
That's what hurt it the most for me. I mean, there was good performances in that, but it's just a lot of the downtime could have been used to, I guess, tighten up the story of do things that were relevant to the main plot rather than just trying to set up the Avengers. That's what kind of pulled me away from that. But I forgot that Iron Man 3 that Shane Black is directed it, and he did some writing on that too. He's the the master behind the Lethal Weapon films, and just recently one of my other favorite films that Robert Downey Jr. is in was Val Kilmer, Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, which is one of my other favorite films. Like Val Kilmer is one of those actors where sometimes he's a good actor, and there's other times where he's just in these. You always question him sometimes when he's in these other directed DVD films. Like, well, man, you used to be on top of the world. You used to be Batman. You look like a GQ model. You could have had.
Now it looks like he ate the Batmobile.
He ate the Batmobile. He could have been almost on the same status as like Brad Pitt, but he has some interesting role decisions he does. But he's a good actor when he wants to be. But I guess when he has the right director. But he was great in Kiss Kiss Bang Bang.
Yeah, I mean, he always picks these very eccentric characters who always have for the big theatrical releases at the very least. I'm not sure about a lot of his direct-to-DVD stuff, but he's done. He did True Romance. He played the kind of ghostly apparition of Elvis Presley. Kiss Kiss Bang Bang as this. The kind of one of the first gay characters who doesn't try to act overly effeminate, and then you have him in Tombstone, where he's this very, he's this guy who loves sinning, but he realizes just how much it ruins his relationship with his only good friend, which is Wyatt Earp, and he plays Doc Holliday in that one. Then he always picked roles that didn't just pigeonhole him into when he was at the height of his power, just not into just one sort of area. But he's got a lot of.
I respect him for that aspect. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's not the kind of guy that gets typecast. He kind of just he can kind of pick and choose kind of any kind of roles, but he kind of works with them for any type of diverse role there. But how was Iron Man 3, sir?
Iron Man 3 was awesome, and it is what a lot of people don't notice, that it's probably the darkest of the three films, yet at the same time the funniest.
Ooh.
And it is all about Tony Stark dealing with post-traumatic stress disorder after the events of the Avengers. He is basically just falling apart, and he's becoming so overprotective of his lifestyle and his friends that he doesn't want anyone to hurt them, and because of that he does some things both out of defense of out of the people he loves, but also out of the defense of the fact that he just has no idea what he's doing, and he's just hoping that what he does is, will save everybody. The Mandarin is the big, teased villain in this entire thing, and they do something with his character which a lot of people I could see get angry about, but I loved the hell out of the twist. I thought it was a perfect, just a reflective look on everything that was that the kind of current trends of superhero movies are doing, but it stands great by itself as well.
Was it something just out of like the comic book comparatively out of character, or just something that you didn't kind of expect to see?
They could have easily done the really offensively racist Asian stereotype that they had in the comic book, because if you look at the beginning ones, where it's just sad how just the egregiousness to which they portray the character of the Mandarin, because he's this Eastern feng shui ring wielding long fingernailed Eastern guru who who does magic in the so-called realistic world of Tony Stark's Iron Man. It's everybody has it's the only reason why he's even that memorable isn't because he has a great story arc like the Joker, or he's tested the character in ways that they've never been tested before. It's only because he's different, because every single other of his bad guys are just other people in iron suits. That's it. Yeah, but in this film they do something with him which is wow, you had the fortitude to say nay to comic book history and say okay, we're going to do it in a different way, and it works incredibly well. But that was my opinion, and I know a lot of comic book fans are not really happy with the portrayal, but I gotta say I love the hell out of it, and Mandarin might be one of my favorite, not just superhero villains of all time, but one of my favorite villains of all time, period.
Yeah, I have to let you know what I think about it. I probably will enjoy, because I have no idea exactly anything about the character in the comic books, so I probably won't be too disappointed about that. But I guess it was something that they probably did in order just to make it seem a bit coherent to, I guess, the kind of the tone, or just the continuity of what they set for the previous films, I guess, to make it more sense.
It is and it isn't. I can't really go into why, but right. It's what they do with the character is not very it actually is very it's semi-true to the source material, but it's a reimagining in a way that does fit the Iron Man films a lot more than what they would have done should they have continued with it. And it's actually a nice surprise as well, because it's all built upon the idea of you expecting to know what the Mandarin is about in trailers and TV spots, and what they do is actually really, really shocking and surprising.
You said it was also the funniest as well. I would assume that it probably will be the case, because I think Shane Black writes some pretty good dialogue there, and he seems like to be one of those directors that doesn't do a whole lot of films every year. He does. I guess I'm trying to remember what the last film he did, but he took a pretty extensive break from film, and then he came back for Iron Man 3.
Yeah, and the next movie he's doing is a Doc Savage adaptation, so that'll be really interesting, where it's mostly just comedy, and Kiss Kiss Bang Bang was a great drama and comedy in equal measures, and it's the same with Iron Man 3, because there's a lot of tropes that Shane Black throws in there that are obviously from his movies. There's the opening scene, one of the first things that after the Marvel Studios logo fades away, what you come to is Tony Stark trying to retell his the story of Iron Man 3, and he just goes, "Oh wait, no, I messed up. Wait, let me try again." And so that's very Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, and it's just a lot of surprising humor that doesn't feel out of place or too jokey. Because that's how I felt with Iron Man 2 at some points, where it was just Tony and Pepper or Tony and somebody else trying to have like really great dialogue, and it just did not coalesce together that great. Like there was, it was not. Like the first film, it worked a lot. It really worked really great because like Tony Stark always had these great one-liners, but it also felt very natural. Whereas in the second film, it felt like okay, they're trying to cram a lot of these one-liners in there. And with the third film, they go back to a lot more of the natural sort of feel of how the dialogue plays out.
Oh, that's really cool. Yeah. So you give it a good thumbs up. The CH's stamp of approval.
Nah, I give it a rental.
Oh man, what a twist!
What a twist! I'm the Mandarin of this review. You'll never see me coming. It's where
end of show.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
End of show.
Yeah, end of show right there. Believe it or not, that's how Iron Man 3 ends. Where he just goes, "I give this movie 2 thumbs up," and then that's it.
Oh, I gotta ask. I heard that the Stan Lee cameo wasn't his best.
No, but it wasn't bad. I mean, it wasn't like, well, to be honest, like I've never not liked a Stan Lee cameo, where he's fine in his role, but it's no, I still think his best cameo was in Amazing Spider-Man, or like even in the first. It's not even as good as the first Iron Man cameo appearance, where he's mistaken for Hugh Hefner, but in the third one. The role he plays it's subdued and it's really quick, and that's nice, and it's nice that they don't really focus on, they don't like point to and go, oh look, he's in this movie. It's, really quick sort of segment, and like for people with fast eyes they'll see like, oh, there he is. But it's not a bad cameo appearance.
Oh yeah, I never felt that
it's not the Spider-Man 3 cameo appearance. Hello?
Yes. That's not the Spider-Man 3 cameo appearance?
Yeah, where he's just like talking to Peter Parker on the street, where longer he talks, the more you realize he's not a good actor. And he's like, well, I guess that goes to show you that there really are superheroes in the real world. Enough said. And then he just walks off screen. Oh my god, that was painful.
Excelsior.
I mean, I would have loved it if maybe they had I don't know if they decided like him like walking by, I go, he's like, where like he just bumps into Tobey Maguire's Peter Parker, goes, well, look at that, there really are heroes around here, and then just like keeps walking. Where like anything longer than like 6 seconds is too long for Stan Lee to be on screen.
I actually dug. I think my top 2 are the one where he's the mailman, the postman in Fantastic Four, and the one in the Hulk where he drinks the Bruce Banner's blood from the soda.
I definitely dug that one too, and I the only part of the second Fantastic Four film I really liked was his cameo appearance, because I'm Stan Lee. Yeah, right, pal. Keep moving. No, I am really. And then they just like shove him off.
I'm in the Spider-Man game.
And yes, in the Spider-Man game as well. Like he just, I have a fan theory that he's actually just this developing immortal who loves like taking human jobs and just like being among the people, which is why he's always smiling the entire time. And so he's just having a grand old time, just going up to people and just like, oh, hello there, have you seen that like blind man who can beat up that crime lord over there? It's like, yes, I have. Well, that's great. I'm gonna go over here to sell a hot dog to the Hulk.
Wouldn't have it any other way. Good old Stan Lee.
Yeah, no. I also, speaking of Marvel Studios and the people who own them, Disney. The future of Star Wars games looks like it's going to be up in the air. Do you know why?
Why is that, good sir?
Because apparently EA has signed a multi-year contract deal where they'll be developing exclusively as the publishers. Where, and I have mixed feelings about this.
Pre-order.
Obviously, I'm sorry.
Pre-order.
Pre-order DLC microtransactions. Every time you use a force push, that's $5.
My goodness, gotta lay off the force pushes there. But that's the whole reason I play them.
And you're gonna have to fight the Gorog in a piece of DLC that was supposed to come with the game.
Gorog Returns DLC. I'd actually pay money for that.
Yeah, I would pay for that too, just to show everybody, like, hey, look at that. That's my name. That's what I look like in the motion capture suit. They didn't have to do any digital anything. They just like put me in the suit and go, just act, all right? Just say grr. Good. Now we're done. Oh man, why did we bring this guy in here? He's way too scared.
Now wait a minute, you're bringing some breaking news here. You're working on some Gorog DLC for EA.
Oh damn it! You found out. How did you know? How did you know?
Well, I've been known as a pretty good interview. I get the best scoops, ice cream scoops. Scoopums.
Well, to be honest, this one's a bit of a strawberry scoop, as in nobody's really clamoring for it, as Electronic Arts has agreed to develop and publish the new titles.
Yeah.
And I'm interested just because of the fact that DICE and Visceral have been tapped to be producing new games alongside the BioWare team. And, I think that these developers are fantastic. I just wish that EA wouldn't just put such a freaking stranglehold over them. And I'm just so glad to see DICE having the opportunity to do something besides a modern day first person shooter, and with Visceral being able to do something that's not Dead Space, where it's just really too bad because it was like the vice. The vice president of EA was saying something like, DICE is not a Battlefield factory, and it's like, have you seen their resume? They're nothing but a Battlefield factory, so I'm just now glad that DICE will have the opportunity, as well as Visceral, to make new Star Wars games, and then maybe they'll make BioWare make less Star Wars games after the Old Republic.
Well, at least they might get a break from Battlefield and work on some Star Wars games, and then we'll be talking in a few years how they're DICE is just releasing Star Wars games.
Yeah,
interesting predicament they're in, poor DICE.
Yeah, God, I mean, I want these people to succeed, but it seems like even if they succeed, they're then just put to work to do more Battlefield games. It's like it's like the old saying, like, beatings will continue until morale improves, and you have DICE just being the whipping boy the entire time of just like, okay, we have no idea how to get out of this, and the only time we can is either making another type of multiplayer shooter that isn't a Battlefield, or maybe like one other extra game, like a Need for Speed game, or something, but never an original IP. Their only IP was Mirror's Edge, and EA keeps dangling that like a carrot like over a hungry dog's face, saying like, "Oh, you better go eat it. Yeah, you gotta buy other games, or else we're not gonna be able to fund this." It's like, oh boy, I sometimes
more DLC maps.
I'm sorry.
More DLC maps, and maybe we'll pitch in.
Yeah,
pitch in
more,
for
get more costume
second.
packs. Yeah, I mean, people threw a hissy fit when Skyrim came out with like the horse armor mod, like DLC, and people thought like, oh, this is just going to be ridiculous. This will go away soon, and then it's like, no, this is actually, I'm sorry, like not mod, but downloadable content. And then it's become the norm to have like costumes and character models that are just slightly different, or that could have been easily implemented into the game, and instead of like being unlockables, you have to pay for them now.
Well, didn't it sell as well? So you gotta put some blame on those who bought it.
Yes, indeed. It is a give and take sort of. It's a give and take a proposition that you got here, just because of the fact that you can't have people have to vote for their money, with their money to buy new games, and sometimes if they don't want to if they don't do it, then publishers and developers will think, okay, they want this to keep on trucking along, but it's unfortunately it's a little bit too bad, just because like EA has big marketing, and with marketing, if you're told something often enough, you'll probably believe it.
Yeah, and I guess I probably will say I'm a little guilty at that. I never bought costume packs per se, but I bought the skins for the Arkham City. So I got the anime series Batman and the Dark Knight Returns Batman.
Yeah, but those
maybe those are different.
Yeah, it's different because it's WB and Rocksteady. Although, to be fair, I'm more angry about the fact of the Catwoman DLC stuff, where it was advertised as being central to the game, and it was only like a couple of weeks before it was launched that they mentioned the fact that, this is going to be day one DLC, and even if you download the day one DLC, if you go off Xbox Live, it doesn't work. And it's like, wow, that is just crappy work on your end, Warner Brothers and Rocksteady. I kind of hope that was not.
Yeah, that was just wrongly advertised there, and with the Catwoman DLC, that it is what it is. It's DLC. It's not even. To my knowledge, it's not even on the disc, because when you buy it new, you have to input the code in there to download it. And while I say that it's not really necessary to the story per se, but it's pretty much just an add-on there to play as Catwoman for some of the segments. And a lot of there aren't many segments of Catwoman in it, but there's some of them on there that are in there. And just always felt that they kind of took away from the main story. But that's just me. But it was fun to play as her. But there were interesting distractions. But I thought there were just some weird moments where they would have you switch over from her to
Batman, and it's not exactly as fun or more fun than being Batman, because you have to do that weird climbing segment where it doesn't exactly work, and you have to time it just right, and the timing doesn't really work, and then you have a lot less weaponry and gadgets to work with, and
you also had to if you wanted to, you also probably upgrade her stuff as well while you were playing. While there's some segments that can be a bit challenging if you don't have some of the upgrades, like the Two-Face segment there, which just required more stealth than anything else in that particular level. And since you were playing Batman most of the game, you probably try to get used to the mechanics of Catwoman every now and then. But I enjoy playing as her in the challenge rooms. I do. That's the one thing I like to go back on a lot with Batman. It's just one of my favorite third-person games that have just great, no other game I can think of like Batman. Just open world, sort of open world third-person that has just that great melee combat that's just done. It's so simplistic and also very challenging as well.
It is kind of one of those tried and true measures of a game where you can have a simple mechanic system and yet get so much pleasure out of it no matter how many times you play it. Like Super Mario World, where it's just jumping and riding on Yoshi and just getting around the level and eating flowers and firing fireballs, but it still is just so engaging. And the same thing can be said with the Arkham games, where the combat is just outstanding. And I'm looking forward to Arkham Origins, but I'm also a little bit worried because it's not Rocksteady who's working on it.
And also, Kevin Conroy's not voicing Batman either. That's just going the.
What is the? I'm sorry.
They're going the Michael Ironside route of getting someone younger.
God, what is going on? All of our veterans are being replaced by these young whippersnappers. No more Michael Ironside, no more David Hayter being Solid Snake, no more Kevin Conroy as Batman. It's just these youngins coming up and just demanding that we pay attention to them, and that's just ridiculous. How dare you take away our happiness and life with these people.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm also looking kind of looking forward to the Batman Origins as well. I haven't seen. I don't think they put out any type of gameplay for it. I've just only seen some sort of, I guess, concept art or screenshots of it. But just, I mean, the idea sounds pretty, I guess, solid enough to play through. But I mean, if it's anything, like with Rocksteady. Rocksteady's games, I definitely like to play it, and maybe the new developer will also probably add in some newer ideas and just mix things up so they don't have to necessarily piggy toe off of what Rocksteady has done and make it their own.
I mean, even if it's just like having a different sensibilities in terms of the atmosphere, because like the first 2 Arkham games are very dark, and I would love to see them maybe go for Silver Age, not goofiness, but more adventurous stuff. Like, I don't know, if they made, like, Bruce Wayne and Batman a little bit more like Tony Stark, where, he broods some of the time, but not all of the time, where he actually doesn't take himself so seriously, and he realizes the ridiculousness of the universe he lives in.
Kind of a little bit of the Brave and the Bold.
Yeah, I mean, if they got the Neil Patrick Harris as the music maestro, I'd be very happy with that.
Oh yeah, who wouldn't?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
This is Thriller.
It'd be interesting what comes out of that.
Mm-hmm. And I'm it's this weird transitional period where I think video games are going to go start being more cartoony and more creative than this generation, because this generation has predicated itself a lot on being as realistic and serious as possible, where Assassin's Creed, BioShock series, the Call of Duty series, even Halo became, I still love Halo 4, but it definitely became a lot less goofier than when it was under Bungie's wing. Mm-hmm. And the only one that really stood out that was like a huge, consistently funny sort of game that was still a huge selling point was the Portal series, where the first one was like kind of serious with the really, really dark humor, and the second one was like, okay, you know what, we're just gonna go silly with this one, and they hit it out of the park because of that.
Yeah, definitely. I'd like to see some console games take that approach rather than just it being a story where it has a lot of dark twists and turns, or it makes you feel something, or makes you feel sad or something like that. Maybe just something more of a... I mean, there's definitely room for that in particular, but there's always room for just this kind of heartwarming, feel-good type of game. Sort of just something that just, like you said, doesn't take itself too seriously and just has fun with itself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would like to see that path where it's like, okay, and even indie games like Super Meat Boy, Limbo, Hotline Miami, like they always have they have this dark edge to them where it's. I mean, they're still great games, but they're still not really. Oh, let's have freedom of just enjoying being yourself, and we see them like occasionally, like with Flower and Journey, where it's just exploration and the pure exhilaration and joy of just exploring, which is very, very nice. I like it.
Exploring, yeah. Speaking of exploring,
mm-hmm.
Have you explored any titles this week? Any games?
I have been. Well, I came back to good old Virginia back in back on Sunday, so I have not had actually the opportunity to be playing any new games. Just playing some of the old ones. I've been replaying, of course, Crimson Skies and DMC Devil May Cry for my Let's Plays, and I've been more than happy to upload them, and I still can't. I remember really liking Crimson Skies, but playing it again, I'm just flabbergasted at how beautiful the environments are, how imaginative the universe is, and it's such a rich franchise, seemingly obvious choice to make it into a franchise, but just like such an interesting universe that kind of like Jade Empire, just nobody seems to want to make a sequel to, and it's ripe for sequel material if they ever do so. But then again, there's kind of there's that that fun factor of like, oh yeah, it's a one and done sort of thing where they don't have anything else to ruin it, and so I like that. So I don't know, I'm of two different minds.
It's always nice to have kind of fond memories of a game and just positive thoughts about it, and then going back and replaying it and not being too disappointed by it, because sometimes I had high thoughts of a game and I replay it and just like kind of get disappointed by, oh man, it's not as fun now as when I was younger. It's just but it's nice to have that feeling where it's not nostalgia completely clouding your judgment when you going back and replay it. That it still holds up pretty well.
And there's something to be said about just, it also feels very wholesome in the way that, like, even the little things like the fact that you can shoot down enemy pilots, but instead they'll just do the G.I. Joe ejector seat, where it's like each and every single one of them has a parachute ready, and once they get shot at, once you shoot them out of the sky, you see the pilots just like falling out of the sky with their parachutes. And it's a lot of fun, and it's a lot of just not taking itself incredibly serious, but it still has a fairly good story with a very interesting cast of characters.
That's very cool. I mean, I had the same. At first when I played it, I really liked it, and just replaying it again, I really appreciated how much, and it just kind of made me realize how much I should have liked it as much as when I played the first time. But when I mentioned I was playing Red Dead again, it was just I just had that feeling. It's like, man, I can't believe I didn't love this game when I played it. I liked it a lot, but not just playing it. I absolutely love it. I think it's still one of my favorite Rockstar games to date. There, I just spent the whole day just walking around and looking at the sunrise. It's amazing that you could just do that. It just looks it still holds up really well. It looks very good. I don't know.
Absolutely.
It just watching the sunset and rise. It's just, I did that, for like about 2 hours today, and then I also when I finished the mission when I got the weapon, I think it was the Gatling gun or machine gun, where we did the attack on Fort Mercer. Mm-hmm. After I did that, I think that's right after you do that, you would just go to the mission to go in Mexico. That's where I'm at right now. But before I did that mission where you were heading to Mexico, I was like, I spent almost a good hour and a half. I just walked to that destination. I was like, oh man, I never did this before. Like in a game, I would just fast travel. I'd just take the horse or one of those carriages to just fast travel me over there. But I walked the whole way. I was like half across the map. It was just, oh man, it's just amazing just how much you have just to watch the environments just change as you keep walking, and just the way it's got great lighting, especially seeing the sunrise coming out from the mountains and just walking around and getting attacked by cheetahs, and oh god, all the randomness that goes on while you're headed there. Like you miss out, but just when while you're just running a horse and just like right past them, it's like not give it a second thought, but just like always walking around and saying howdy to the people I pass by on horses. Hey, what's going on? I was just walking by.
Hola, no habla español.
Oh yeah, he did that too. I was like, that was one of the West Dickens missions there, where he was doing another one of his Ponzi schemes. You're shooting the elixirs up in the air when he drank some of that, and having the guy question you, and then shoot his hat off and shoot his hand. That was fun.
And I like the fact that he's like, yo, you bastard. Well, I guess I better have some of that elixir anyway.
Yeah. I like how you just ignored that. I was like, oh, maybe that'll cure my injuries here.
Yeah.
Drink some of those ailments.
Yeah, and you know what? Red Dead Redemption is my favorite Rockstar game of all time. I'm not exactly sure whether or not that Rockstar team worked on anything else. I mean, it's Rockstar Vancouver, Rockstar North, Rockstar London, Rockstar
San Diego, right?
Yeah.
Each division kind of collaborate on most of the games. It's always a little bit of each studio in those games. I know that. I think it was. I'm trying to remember who worked on, but I know it was a different developer that worked on the Max Payne 3, a multiplayer side of things, and the other branching companies worked on the single player. But everyone kind of just chips in here and there when they're working on other projects at the same time. There, it's an interesting thing they're doing over there in Rockstar.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, even if I don't like the end product, like Max Payne 3 or Grand Theft Auto 4, I can't deny that artistry does not go into each and every single one of their games, and that they try to push for whatever they're doing with reckless abandon and with just complete dedication.
Yeah.
And I would love to see Rockstar. The only licensed game that they ever did was
ping pong, right?
I'm sorry?
The ping pong game?
I think that was actually their own creation. I mean, it was for the ping pong. Like, they had to get ping pong tournament like permission to do so, and get that signed off on. But I was thinking of the Warrior video game, which is a big contributor to kind of where their combat went from that there on out, which went to Bully and then Red Dead Redemption. And I would love to see Rockstar try to take on a superhero genre. That, like, I would love to see them do. Even if it wasn't like Marvel or DC backed, where they paid for the license for that character, like Iron Man or for Superman. I would love for them to do just a superhero game, because there still hasn't been. Spider-Man 2 is still my favorite superhero game, but we need. I think the industry just needs to make the great superhero game that isn't already Arkham City,
right?
Where it's superpowers, have that actually be, be kind of one of the big staple marks.
Yeah, I'd definitely be down for that. I'd like to see what they do with that, and just kind of, I guess, the moral dilemma, or just the things that people have thoughts on when it comes to superheroes, and how one man cannot have all that power, as Kanye West said.
As the philosopher Keon West once famously said, "I am Kanye West." And that statement was never more true than it was then.
George Bush don't like black people.
He doesn't. It's empirical data that Kanye West was talking from. Otherwise, he would just have been talking out of his ass.
He's speaking out of the heart, which is his ass.
Sometimes it's hard to tell with that man which area is which.
And I also would like to see what they could do with some sort of either a period piece. I don't know. No, they already did that with Eleanor. I guess that would count as some sort of the period piece. Maybe something like in the Crusades. I'd like to see what they could do. Something in the medieval time, or some sort of fantasy, a dark fantasy game, in the tone of The Witcher or Game of Thrones. That'd be interesting.
Oi, Nico! It's your cousin, Roman.
Roman the dwarf.
That would.
I need you to take me a ride over to the pub. We can plow with some whores.
Let me give you this ancient mid-century cell phone for some reason.
I gotta mention, I also got a newer hard drive from my 360. I was able to find the GameStop who sold one. That was for the previous consoles before the newer slim ones, because it's hard to really find those previous 360 hard drives that are not the slim hard drives online. I mean, in store, but online it's pretty easy. But I got the 250 gigs, so I'm just happy as a pig in shit. having enough space to just install some games and keep my downloadable games on there, so I don't have to keep re-downloading stuff. Because I had the same issue with when I was replaying Mass Effect, because I had to download some DLC in order so I could play it. It's like some of the DLC you play is kind of locked in with your save, so you can't play unless you have it installed there. Just like the Mass Effect 2, like if you were gonna go back to a previous save, you had to like download the DLC you already completed, like the Shadow Broker and just the other ones they released there, but. Yeah, it's nice. It's nice to have more space. So I was just installing The Witcher 2, and I was like, I was close to playing it, but then it's like, I have to do this another time because I want to replay that again because I already played it once. But
I completely agree that downloading stuff would makes it always easier, especially when your save information will not allow you to continue on. And same thing with I was playing BioShock, the first BioShock again, and I downloaded like a free plasmid abilities sort of thing, and I played the game a little bit, and then I reached a point where I accidentally deleted it, and then I couldn't play the game again. Not because I even purchased the stuff, and then it said like, oh, you need the content to keep on going, but it's like, oh, it's in the vending machines in the game, you still need the content, therefore you need to re-download it.
Oh, damn.
But yeah, it's just just too bad.
Yeah. Hopefully it will get a bit better when it comes to the requirements needed to get some of that stuff within game, or just not having to keep in, like having to go back on a save where it requires you to have a certain DLC there to play it, or in some way, shape or form, just I guess some way just to notify that you did have it on there. But I don't know. That's a slippery slope there. It's a complex. Almost as complex as not being able to transfer music from your USB to the 360.
Yeah, but good luck with that, and then not being able to download mods onto the 360 or the PS3 or your 360 or your Wii in legal manner.
Oh yeah, I mean the only one I can think of it not being able to do so, I mean, that will kind of severely impact the game was like the preferred way to play it is on the PC. It's like the Team Fortress 2 is not the same game on the 360 as it is now on the PC. There have been so many updates and available for that game that just completely have changed it since its original release.
Yeah, whole new modes, just all the constant hats and different abilities, and they just Valve just kind of stopped work for the 360 and PS3 versions of these games of Team Fortress, and I honestly wouldn't blame them if they just said like, okay, you know what, we're not going to make subpar products anymore for this. We're going to wait until we actually release the Steam box or can actually effectively and consistently create new content for consoles without having to sacrifice any of the inherent pleasures of being able to play on said consoles.
Yeah, they had issues of not being able to do that with Microsoft for those those updates, and for the Team Fortress 2, they're just a lot of barriers in the way for that Microsoft was putting in order to get that done for those updates. I don't know. Didn't at one point I think consider some of those updates? They wanted to do those updates as DLC or something.
Yeah, but then it's also like, okay, now that Microsoft charges for having your product on their marketplace, and it can be free from you guys, but you'll have to pay Microsoft. So kind of what's the deal for them? What's in it for them?
Mm-hmm. PC gaming, man.
Yeah, it's way of the future, and I hope that the console market for the next cycle around takes a lot more inspiration from that, and doesn't just try to blatantly ignore it and just put in DRM and just kind of the worst parts of PC gaming without any of the benefits.
It's crazy because I saw Hitman Absolution on the PC for $9 one day.
Wow.
That's amazing.
And the thing is that I love playing with a controller. I don't know what it is about a keyboard where it's like, okay, I will admit it's a lot more. It's far more accurate with a mouse and a pad. I'm sorry?
You're more used to it that way. I get your sentiments. I know there's some games where that require use the mouse and keyboard, but most people who play the PC games, they go the route just to plugging in the 360 or controller in there, and most of the PC games are always have the controller pad mapped out so you can play it that way. Just with a better performance and graphics and just better pricing as well. Better pricing.
Yep. And the pricing was one of the big things, like where we need to figure out a better path to just how in the world are we going to get a better pricing structure for I don't mean digital download games like arcade games, because those are getting better. Like there's the right kind of proportioned price structure with indie games versus kind of more professional developed games versus digital download remasterings like Resident Evil 4 HD, and then just having the right amount of all that jazz, and then
I think the arcade stuff was pretty reasonably priced from what I've seen. I wouldn't go out as far as getting anything from the really really indie side thing, because a lot of them are just Minecraft clones anyway.
Yep, or a really really surprisingly offensive, confusing games by like Russian or South Korean indie developers, where it's like, okay, I appreciate that you're going for the gold here, but going for the gold in your country must mean something completely different from what it means here. Just like, wow.
I mean the pricing for like HD remakes or even with the HD remakes or just arcade stuff like Dust or and those games I think are pretty reasonably priced. I'm not. It could be debated on some of the other arcade games like Sonic and stuff, the Sonic and all the older kind of 2D games.
Yeah,
those could be debated there, but like I think like $20 for the Resident Evil 4 HD, I think that's pretty reasonable.
Yeah, but and like the digital stuff is fine, but if we're still going to have retail, I suggest that.
The on-demand stuff is insane. So I don't know what anybody buys from that. The on-demand stuff, like some of the older games, like let's say like Hitman, Blood Money. I think they have it on demand, and it's pretty. I think it's like $30 on demand. So like things like that is way overpriced. Some of the older games on demand for Xbox.
Yeah. There's some on-demand games that are still hella expensive. Like the first Ghost Recon Advanced Warfighter is still like $50. Like no one's paying for that. What are you doing?
You probably get it for $5 on Amazon used.
Like 5 cents on Steam, and it's still like this really weird. Like only if it has like really really particular sales that are going on, and I have to say I'm not really happy with the pricing structure right now for like a lot of the console stuff, but like for retailer stuff that's even more kind of aggravating, because you have like it's only $60 games that are getting sold new, whereas looking at $40 or $50 priced games is seen as sort of inherently problematic, and that's just really a problem of marketing, where you have to market your games a lot better to and like for like Enslaved, Odyssey to the West. I keep going back to this one because this is the one that I will always rag on about, where that game was brilliant, but it was never going to make its money back as a $60 new IP. So just making it $40, it's better to go with $40 and sell reasonably well rather than $60 and like for the product you think the pricing range you think it deserves, and then not have anything sold.
Oh yeah. I think that's kind of the approach they took with that that recent game that they let's spin off of Mad World.
Yeah.
I forgot what the name was, but that and I guess the Binary Domain Anarchy Reigns, and I think Binary Domain could have benefited from that too if it was probably like $40. It's a good game though.
I think Anarchy Reigns did go down to $40, but it was I also believe that it was
well, wasn't it like $30 when it came out? Might have been mistaken, but
whatever it was significantly lower than the rest of it, and it didn't get any marketing whatsoever, and it would just kind of flew under the radar, despite the fact that it's made by Platinum, which is one of the big heavy hitters now these days.
Oh yeah, in terms of just action games.
Yeah, hell yeah,
action adventure games. How do you feel on like the games like Deadly Premonition, when it came out, I think they sold it for $20 at the time. Do you think that had to do with most of its success?
I do, and I think that it also has to do with the fact that it had such a radically different tone and such a strange sense of identity compared to the rest of the games, that everyone just kind of gravitated towards it and said like, wow, this game is just awesome, because it knows what it wants to do, and it does it reasonably well. Same thing with Minecraft, where Minecraft was just so vastly different and just knew kind of what it wanted to be and didn't try to clone. Well, to be fair, it was kind of a clone of another game, but it did it better. So it was always just this fairly interesting look at like the games that were counter that at that point in time that also just kind of knew how to sell themselves.
Yeah, if you could definitely do that and figure out a way to sell the game by themselves, just pitch it well, and also it sweetens the deal a lot more when you found out like Deadly Premonition was $20. Like normally you wouldn't probably give that game a chance if it was $60, but it also sweets the pot a bit more if you find out it's $20 new. That's what got. I mean, that got me to. I mean, your pitch and when you told me about it the first time when you brought it up when you're playing that, it sold me, but it also sweetened the deal to find out that it was like sold for $20, and it's like, yeah, I would have. I probably wouldn't have played it if it was $60 at the time. Might have played it later on if it did increase in price, but yeah, $20 really, it got me. It was my instant purchase right there.
Yeah, I mean we also have this weird stigma against any games that like are not immediately released at full price. They have to be inferior games, and because of that, it's very counterproductive to smaller games that want a smaller budget and smaller development team for a smaller price. But then we have sites like Good Old Games or services like Steam where we actually can access more content for a much lower price, including new content, which I think is helping the image a lot more than usual. Than just like saying like, oh, okay, well then if it's not $60, it must not be worth the price.
Yeah, I've never seen a game on there that was $60 to my knowledge at all, unless this came with a bundle pack. But like nothing new on there is worth like over like let's say $40. Most of it's pretty relatively low in price, and most of them are pretty decent games. And there are even new games as well, like the indie type of games. I mean, there's always deals going on with The Witcher on and off with that game in particular on that site for ranging from $10 to $20 all over the place. And DRM free.
Oh yeah. Thank God for good old games and just being able to, stick it to the man by offering great games at a great price. Like there are people who are like recommending SimCity 2000, like who are the same people who like really badmouth the new SimCity and just said, listen, if you want a really great experience, just get this one and ignore the new game.
Yeah, I've considered getting the SimCity 2000 just because I was in the mood to play those type of games. I played sort of like Roller Coaster Tycoon, sort of in a way similar, but managing things. And I mean, the only thing that comes to mind that I guess Google Games is the only perfect example that's handling the pricing of games pretty well in Steam. But we'll see that maybe they'll take a turn for the better in terms of the pricing structure, especially for games that are kind of a bit older in their release state. So like if it's been like a year or 2 years, you gotta decrease the price. Come on.
Yeah, it's also something I'd like to see a lot more of, where it's just, come on, let's lower the price a little bit after launch, because if you don't have people buying your games a year after you basically have the game out on market because it's too pricey, you gotta drop down the sales.
Yeah, Nintendo did it with 3DS, and seemed to work a little bit well in their favor. I know they still got a couple of games. I guess they're still releasing. I'm not sure whether or not the Luigi's Mansion is out yet for the 3DS.
Yeah,
they've been hyping for since E3, and they haven't really said anything much of it since E3. I think
this is the year of Luigi, baby. Did you see that? Somebody found like the Luigi specific 3DS, and it has all the images of Luigi on the back, and then somebody pointed out one of them was Mario's silhouette. Oh, damn it! Even in his own year, he's overshadowed by his brother.
This the younger brothers, man.
I'm more interested in Luigi just because of the fact that he just has such a far more interesting personality, where he's this coward who kind of has to do what needs to be done because, there's circumstances. Circumstance. He's a victim of circumstance. Where he's just, in Luigi's Mansion, this is the guy you want least associated with bravery. And, he has to go and to a haunted mansion full of ghosts and other nefarious things, and then defeat them to save his brother from an evil giant Mega Bowser, or I think it was King Boo. Where it was oh wow, that's a good one.
Goes to show you, if you conquer your fears, you get a lot done. I like to thank Luigi for that inspiration there.
Absolutely, and since just trailing off the conversation a little bit, I gotta ask, what is your, I'm thinking about Iron Man 3 and the Marvel movies, what's your favorite of the Marvel Studios films?
Marvel Studios films?
Like the new ones that are actually owned by Marvel and not like Sony or Paramount, Sony or Fox.
Yeah, that's a good one. I probably would say Iron Man is probably still one of my favorite ones. If I would be objective, I mean, it's probably already been said, but I mean, the Avengers was really good, but Iron Man, the first Iron Man, really was one of my favorite ones. It's one of the few superhero films I've watched back to back in the theater. I really dug Iron Man. It was one of those. It was an interesting risk that they took on it, because he was just it was a pretty obscure character, but not necessarily in the mainstream eyes, but not necessarily in the comic book world. But it really elevated that character a lot more, and got people to know more about him and read the comics after that first film. And just Robert Downey Jr. was a big contributor to why it was so successful.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Iron Man is definitely one of the best that they've done, and and what they do is it's great because it's a character study first. It's not just he's suddenly a superhero and he's going to fight stuff. Like the original Superman 77 film, that it was a good film for its time, but it's very dated now. It's not really about a character. It's about okay, look, it's cool, it's Superman, he's flying, and there's really weird stereotypes of New Yorkers in there, hey man, that's Superfly. As Superman goes up, it's wow, you could definitely tell the age on this one. And with Iron Man, it's a lot of this. It's Tony Stark. He's dealing with the guilt of killing so many people basically by his own hands and being just completely ignorant to what he's been doing. And it's just that redemption story and the fact that he's such, quick-witted, charming individual that makes him such a great character. And just the relationship between him, Rhodey in the kind of military commanding chair, and Gwyneth Paltrow's character, Pepper Potts, who I gotta say, in the third film, whoa, she is... If you thought she was good looking in the other two films and in Avengers, then you ain't got nothing yet. The third film was like, wow, bravo, ma'am, bravo, Miss Paltrow. But like she has an interesting dynamic with Tony. Is like, oh, okay, she's his moral. She's not like the moral reasoning, but she's like the realistic reasoning, the pragmatic side of him. Where it's like you're gonna kill yourself doing these crazy things, and they drop that in the second film a lot, where she's just like the screaming damsel in distress, and he's just kind of more of an asshole than the first film led you to believe. But the third film, it definitely plays a lot more like the first film in terms of the kind of character dynamics.
Very interesting.
Yeah, and I gotta say, for me, I gotta say my favorite Marvel film. That's hard because I think my favorite film is probably Avengers, just because I love the character interaction stuff they all do with each other, and I just love the dialogue Joss Whedon has with everybody, and just like getting their characters and getting information across so quickly without having to say like, oh, we have to stop for exposition here and here, and just like giving the Hulk a badass moment where the Hulk has never been that interesting of a character, neither has Bruce Banner in the movies, where like they like he's barely registered as a blip on the radar in terms of like being a really cool character. But in Avengers, Joss Whedon knocked it down, like got it pretty right. But out of the best stories, I'd probably have to say Thor as kind of a really, and it was really weird because that was the film I was most questioning about. Like, what? Like this is ridiculous. This can't work. It's like such a ridiculous premise to put in this world, but damn it, they made a really great a character arc with an outstanding protagonist, and I really loved the hell out of it.
Now, an interesting contrary to that question, what is the guilty pleasure Marvel film?
Ooh,
they had a few hits and misses, that Marvel Studios there. I know there's been some polarizing Marvel films as well. Let's say something along the lines of like Fantastic Four, Rise of Silver Surfer, or Daredevil. What's a good guilty pleasure?
Ooh, I
probably would say Ghost Rider.
Oh, dude, Ghost Rider! You're rocking out with Nicolas Cage there. What in particularly draws you to that movie?
It's just the cheesiness, and just I love the moments where Nicolas Cage just freaks out and goes turns into Ghost Rider. But that was more of really in full effect and just amazing in the sequel. Even though I didn't particularly enjoy that much, I thought there were some good scenes in it. It was some interesting action, but the story was just it was just a blip on the radar there. But I went to see it just for Nicolas Cage freak out moments when he turns into the Ghost Rider.
Yeah, Nicolas Cage yelling never gets old. Mm-hmm. It's a fairly. It's not a bad. Well, it's kind of a middle of the road film that definitely. I don't know. It has its moments to cherish, but not exactly praise the film for. But for me, I'm probably gonna have to go with Daredevil. I don't like. I like the fact that Colin Farrell's character as Bullseye is just so ridiculous and unexplained that it's like, oh, he's just this badass assassin who has this target scar on his forehead, and it's like, oh, are we going to explain why in the world he can throw things at the speed of light and like always hit his targets. Like, no, we're not going to really do that. And then I love Michael Clark Duncan as the Kingpin, because like he pulls off that role with like such grace and style. And he's just loving every minute of it. And I just contrary to what a lot of people think, I didn't think Ben Affleck was bad as Daredevil. I just thought it was like, okay, they didn't give him a hell of a lot to do, and I thought him with Jennifer Gardner, like, they occasionally had good chemistry, but I could also see like, okay, well, there's some really bad choices in like which takes to put into this film, and a lot of the action scenes are pretty ridiculous, especially with the CG that doesn't look convincing enough for like close-ups. Even though like the one where he's running up at a Bullseye's motorcycle and he climbs on top of it and kicks his face off it, that looks like PS1 era graphics.
Yeah, it reminded me of the same scene of The Matrix Reloaded when Keanu Reeves was fighting off the agents. It just looked like something they took off like a cutscene in the game. It looks so computer generated.
I mean, the CG. It's amazing how dated it looks, even just like 6 years ago. Where like if you need to use that shit sparingly and in the right places. Like Jurassic Park, it looks great because it uses a lot of the CG at night or against backgrounds that really blend well with the CG. And like the most obviously bad CG moment in Jurassic Park would be the moment where they're going up to the Brachiosaurus. And even that looks actually good. Where it's like, okay, wow, this is cool. And you get the sense of hugeness, and it's like, oh, you don't really get to touch it, but it's like, oh, it's a cool brachiosaur, or whatever you call it. And then
the lack of lighting really hides the world of hurt there. I'd say that it's used really well in Arkham Asylum and Arkham City because you when you see other games that are a bit more brighter than that are using the Unreal Engine, you can see how kind of it's kind of the Unreal Engine's kind of dating, but the way that Batman is it's lit, it makes it work and look a lot better that way. This is just hiding all the worlds that hurt, that the Unreal Engine just becoming so dated, but.
Mm-hmm. Especially with the use of engines, if you use them creatively, then no one can really see the flaws, which is what I really love about the art design with DMC Devil May Cry, which they're using a pretty old system, but the fact they have such great character and creature design and just such an outstanding sense of environments really make it interesting every time you go into a new corridor, and it's seamless. There's never a break where you say, oh, that looks really bad, or that pop-in texture is really obvious, or anything along those lines.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's all I really have to say about that, but just a quick side note here. I know you, with Colin Farrell as Bullseye, is one of my interesting roles that I do like of his. I feel like he's one of those actors that I like the weirdness, that the roles that he takes, like the weird roles, and he's a lot better like in those kind of comedic roles. Like I liked him a lot in Bruges, and then the recently Seven Psychopaths he was really good at. But when he tries to play just this kind of a American guy that's in these kind of more less comedic films, that he's just kind of a bit lacking there. But I think he's really funny in those comedic roles.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's good. He definitely knows how to do comedy, but you just need to give him the right source. You need to give him the right material to use that, and then just like jump off from.
Exactly. That's why I like a lot of just those two films that he's in by the same director. You gotta watch Seven Psychopaths. It's really good.
You know what? I was just finishing up the last vestitudes of my Netflix account, including getting started on how it's made. So I'll be looking up Seven Psychopaths for my next glorious cinematic endeavor.
Yeah, you'll dig it a lot. I mean, it's funny. It's got Christopher Walken in it. She never disappoints. I think it's his best role I've seen him in. and quite recently.
That is high praise. Well, yeah, to be fair, he's not walking on sunshine right now, huh? Well, I mean, it's got a lot of great actors who can do that dramatic, comedic split very well, like Woody Harrelson, Sam Rockwell, Colin Farrell, and Christopher Walken, and all of them together. It's like, wow, okay, this is the kind of film that could that definitely probably gets both sides of the card just right.
And to give him some credit, Tom Waits as well. He's got an interesting side story in that film too, which is a bit disturbing, but it was really a good side story there in that film. You gotta watch that part in that movie. It's really good.
Ooh. All right, well then I'm definitely looking up this Seven Psychopaths the next go around I got.
Yeah, so so we don't happen to have any questions this week, so I figured that we just kind of go on that little side note there with some of that Marvel movie discussion, just to fill in the void of those unavailable questions for this week. But as always, you guys can submit the questions every week when I do remember to post the thread, so that you can have those questions ready at the whim for the next episode. Episode 135, which is the next one there, and the contest is still going on. Just to let you guys know, be sure to submit the answer to that obscure game video game cover there through either to the Spill website. You can send that message to me, to CH, any way your heart desires, and through the Twitter, through the Twitters or the Blade Thumbs podcast at gmail.com. And we'll be announcing the winner very soon, most likely within the next episode or 2 episodes from now. You'll just have to wait. The best things of life are the mysteries, the unpredictability. Yes. I don't like scheduling things ahead of time. I'm the go with the flow type of fella. And that's the best thing. You gotta live. You
are a man who's not bound by any schedule.
You gotta think about now instead of the future, man. You gotta
because what is now but future's present.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm sorry, I just trying that bullshit philosophy right.
Could have said it right. I could have said it better myself. That's a good tweet or something to put on a shirt.
I'll make sure to tweet that after the show.
# inspirational. Snap fingers.
I will definitely make that inspirational.
So, yeah, I mean, other than that, I think we've got a good a good slew of topics we discussed there, and got our kind of thoughts on gaming industry at large with its pricing and just a variety of other issues. The gaming industry is not perfect. It's a fantastic hobby to get into, but some of the business practices are something that are left to be desired there. But the thing about life and just in general is just you live and learn, and hopefully that the publishers will live and learn as well. You can only learn you can only learn by making mistakes.
Yes, it's true, and through growing pains and learning from the wrong, we can get to so much right.
And I gotta say, be kind to others. It's my Jerry Springer monologue.
What did we learn here?
What did we do? We learned many things.
That Rockstar knows how to make a good Western game.
Yes.
That Batman is really good at beating people up with his fist.
And Daredevil was a good guilty pleasure for you.
Yes, it was, and I will proudly go to my grave saying.
So yes, any final words, my good sir? Any plugs you want to put out there? Anything just out of the ordinary, any article you might have read, any type of magazine you might have read while you're in the can, anything that's on your mind.
Uncle John's Bathroom Reader is really, really good. I'd recommend it to anybody who likes to focus your chi energy and on the porcelain throne, and just who like to take extended breaks, just reading and learning about life.
That's right. A good reading is always nice. I'm doing quite a lot of that as well. Still I finished. I think I might have mentioned it or might have not, but I did finish the fourth book in the Song of Fire and Ice series, which is most notably the series that is spun off into the Game of Thrones TV show. So I finished that book right now. I'm gonna be reading the current one that recently came out. I believe it was in 2011 or 2012, which is the latest book in the series. I think there's still 2 more left, so that's about like 7 books overall. So it's one of my first series that I've actually read more than one book. And also have a copy of The Gunslinger as well by the Stephen King. I'm looking to get into that. The Dark Tower books,
right.
And currently reading some of the Witcher, second Witcher book here, the Blood of Elves, which is really good, really good.
Is that the one where it requires like fan translation?
Not particularly. I think there's another one after that. I think it was the Times of Contempt. That's the one I might have mentioned that I don't know when that's coming out. It's always that the release date on that's been here and there, and this, it was supposed to come out last year, the late December, but I don't know what's going on. It's these. I mean, I think there's still other more books to be released by, but I don't know what the publisher is up to, man. Because they're still translating those books, I guess. But there are definitely fan translations available for most of, I think, all of the Witcher books out currently. So I might get into that, but I'm not one to read books on the computer. There, it strains the eyes as it is. I'm more of either a Kindle or just a physical book, which I need to get a Kindle because I'm running out of space with these books. Might be better that way. So that's all about it.
Yeah.
Follow us on the Twitters, twitter.com/Splitter47, and on the Twitters, and you at ch_Gorog. Did you? I think I might have read you recently. You tweeted something a while back. I'm trying to remember what it was.
Oh yeah, it was something along the lines of, if I put in as much time doing work rather than watching dog videos, I'd be president of the United States.
Yes, that is the...
Or my other one, which is, remember when Chris Brown beat up a woman and now everyone acts like it's not a big deal? Hashtag Team Breezy.
Fantastic. If you want to get those tweets and more from the good CH Gorog there, you be sure to go on there, hit that follow button on Twitter. CH_Gorog. We gotta get on the Vine. I've heard things about Vine. I don't know what this Vine is. I know there's Tout, which I'm not getting the Tout. And
yeah, I'm not exactly sure, but hey, it's we'll climb our way up the Vine.
Up the Vine. That's right. That's right. I think that's a sexual innuendo, but I don't want to point that out at the moment. Yes. That's and the YouTubes, right? You got the YouTube Let's Plays. I post a couple of your Let's Plays on the Bloody Films page every now and then in case anyone has missed it. So it's under the YouTubes under Liberator 130.
Yep. Yes, indeed.
Give that a follow. I think you might have gotten 2 new subscribers because of me.
Well, thank you very much. I did get news.
Yeah, from our resident colleagues over at the BGB.
Oh, very nice. Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
And that's that wraps up this episode here, ladies and germs, of 134 of Bloody Thumbs podcast. As always, you can drop us a question there. Be sure to do that, and have a good week. I'm Splitter47 here, signing off.
I am CH Gorog. Bye-bye.